Well, hey, I've got a story to take and tell you today. Real story, involves this guy right here, so close to me and a real learning for me. It actually deals with habits, and I've talked about habits, in several videos up until this point, and today's going to be one about habits, but maybe a little bit different than what you're expecting or what you're thinking. When it comes to habits, there's a really good reason that we develop a habit, and it's psychocybernetics. It's really so that your brain doesn't have to spend, or you, if we think of it that way, you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about how you're going to go about doing something. So, the first time you made a cup of coffee, you thought about the machine, you thought about all of the process, you paid attention to all of that. But by the time you made the 10th cup of coffee, the 10th time you went through that, you had it down, you had the habit absolutely nailed, and you weren't using very much brain power. And if it's first thing in the morning like me, maybe you weren't using any brain power at all. It's just like, hey, let's just make that cup of coffee, sit back and really enjoy that. But so many things that we go through in life, we actually develop habits, and as I said, the reason behind that is to take and reduce brain power, reduce the amount of brain you use in thinking about how to do things. So some great examples for you would be, think about when you put your pants on. Or if ladies, if it's not a pair of pants, think about when you put a skirt on. Whenever you're getting dressed, whatever garment you're putting on, I'll bet you 99% of the time you will do it exactly the same way every time. You'll put the same leg in first, other leg in after, and it's going to be the same way. You're going to pull them up the same way. You're going to do them up the same way. It's just going to be rote. It's going to be habit. Just like when you put your shoes on. If you think about it, you probably put your shoes on the same way every time. You're going to put one foot in, and it's always, in all probability, going to be the same foot, and then it's going to be the other foot. And why is that? So that you don't need to think about it. It's a habit. It's just what you perform. And so much of what goes on in our day-to-day lives, we perform that way. We don't really need to give it a lot of thought. We've done it before. Our brain's got this down. Our subconscious has got this down. And we just run on autopilot, and we do that. And for a lot of times, that's okay. I'm not really going to go into whether those habits are serving you or not yet. But I am going to talk about something else that becomes a habit, becomes habitual, and that's emotions. Because emotions can become a habit, just like how you put your pants on, how you put your shoes on, how you make your cup of coffee, how you go to work every day, how you come back, what you say, what you do, and how you feel. So here's where the story comes in. About 11 years ago, Colette and I moved out of the Yukon. We came to Kelowna, and we had a goal of purchasing a gym. We wanted to be gym owners, personal trainers. We were well equipped for it, physically, financially, mentally. We were ready to go. And so we ended up in Kelowna here, and sure enough, we found just the gym we were looking for. We knew that we could take and do some development on it. We could make it into an even better gym than it was. So we bought the gym, and when we started at it, it was a small business, first time small business owners for us. And there was a lot more to being a small business owner than what we had thought in the beginning. Also, the gym that we bought needed a lot of work. The equipment needed to be upgraded, and our membership needed to be increased. It was struggling when we bought the gym, but we knew that. We also knew that we needed to build that clientele. We needed to build our business base to make the gym successful. So there was lots of different things that we did to accomplish that, to get new people into the gym, and that was all a great experience. But I have to tell you that for that first year, it was also very tough. It was very tough because we were in there from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. Saturdays we were there for 10 hours, so that's 15 hours. Saturdays we were there for 10 hours, 8 to 6, and sometimes we worked Sundays as well. As we developed some staff, and we had staff come in, they would help us out and such. But as a small business owner, in the back of your mind, and maybe more correctly in the front of your mind, you're aware that you've got a lease payment that you've got to make every month, that you've got cooling in the summer times, and in Kelowna here, air conditioning and cooling is an expensive proposition. Wintertime, you've got heating to worry about. You've got other utilities. You have taxes. You have staff. So you've got staff costs. You've got personnel issues. You've got taxes that you pay around that. There's a lot going on to run that small business. And you know, in the first year, it felt like we would show up and we would put heart and soul into our gym, which was actually called Body and Soul. We would put heart and soul into our business, and it felt like we were paying everybody else except us. Everybody else was getting a return except us. And for that first month, you know, it was for that first year, it was pretty much that way. Now, after 12 months, great success story, we actually turned the gym around. So after a year, we started to make a profit, and every quarter for the next 4.5 years after that, we actually increased our profit margin until at the end of 5.5 years, the gym was actually doing quite well. But you know, we could hardly wait to sell it. And it wasn't an economic choice, it was an emotional choice for us. And why was that? Well, you know, it was every day coming in there knowing that we had that 15 hours, 16 hours that we were going to spend at that gym. And you developed a knot in the pit of your stomach. You know, you knew it was going to be long. There was going to be, you know, some trying times, but it was like stress, you know, not oh, I'm going to have a heart attack kind of stress, but it was stressful. It caused you to be anxious. It caused, you know, us to be feeling like we were always had to be on the edge to take and make it through that week, that day, the month, and that first year. So we developed this emotional response. When we would go to the gym, you know, you'd get to the gym and you'd be like, I don't really want to be here. You know, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And we'd have the knot in the stomach. So you would think that when we sold the gym 6.5 years ago, after owning it for 5.5 years, we sold it 6.5 years ago, you would think you're out of that situation, that knot in your stomach isn't there anymore. You have absolutely no reason, physiologically or psychologically, to feel that way. But here's the interesting little thing. We decided the other day to take and just have a drive by the old gym. And so we kind of mimicked, without really thinking about it, we kind of mimicked the way we would have gone from the home that we were living in at the time. And we drove down the same street and we drove towards the gym. We weren't talking to each other as we did that. We were just kind of looking around, just kind of driving by, and we looked at the gym and, oh yeah, it looks like it's about the same. And we got a block away, and I turned to Colette and I said, you know what's amazing? Is that like 6.5 years after selling the gym, driving here, I got that knot in the pit of my stomach. Like, I could feel it. It didn't feel good. I wasn't happy to be there. It felt the same way that it did 6.5 years ago, 7.5, 8.5 years ago, when we actually had the responsibility of running the gym. And so when I thought about that, I realized that I'm not having an emotional response driven by anything that's happening then or anything that's happening today. What I was having was an emotional response that was based in a habit that was developed 10 years ago. In that first year of having the gym and all of the stress and the issues that we dealt with to turn that gym around, which, as I said, we did. But I created this emotional habit that caused a knot in my stomach, and I carried that for the full 5.5 years, just as Colette did, for that full 5.5 years that we owned the gym. And amazingly, it's still there. And there's, as I said, just to really emphasize that, there's no emotional reason for that to be there. There's no physiological reason for me to feel that way. And yet, when I drove by the gym the other day, I had exactly that same feeling. Why? Because it's a habit. And what it caused me to do was to stop and think, okay, if I'm experiencing that emotion by habit without any real cause, without any real reason other than a historical connection to 10 years ago in that first year of owning the gym, how many other emotions do I experience daily or weekly that are habit-based and not based on what's going on around me? When I'm connecting with another person, when I'm connecting with Colette, when we're having a conversation, How am I feeling feelings that are driven in the moment? Or sometimes do my historical emotions cover over what's really going on? You know, when you're having a conversation with a spouse, when you're having a conversation with a friend, are you responding with the emotions of the moment, or are you responding with emotions based on a historical context? And I think that what we'll find is that a lot of the time we respond with emotions based on a historical context, not based on what's going on right in front of us. And you know, I believe, and I used you know consciously there, I believe that a lot of the time our emotional responses get in the way of us enjoying the experience that we're having in the moment. They might even get in the way of us clearly hearing and understanding what the person that's talking to us is saying, because we've got this shield, this fog of emotion that came from somewhere else. And that really came home and really became true to me with that gym. Because as I said, 6.5 years later, why would I get that nod? Because it's an emotional habit. And I'm aware that there are other emotional habits in my life, and I'm betting that you're no different than I am, that there are emotional habits in your life that get in the way of you experiencing and enjoying daily the things that are going on around you, or weekly or monthly, with those people that are close to you, with those people that you work with people that you meet. We make assumptions about that. We have emotional habits that interfere with what's really going on. So my challenge for me is to really pay attention when I'm feeling any way, however it is, to just pause for a moment and really think about what's the cause of that emotion? Where does that come from? And if it's an emotion that's being driven by the circumstances of the moment, that's great. If it's an emotion that's being driven from a historical context, then I need to take and really decide, is that emotion serving me? Probably not. And how do I break that habit? Habits are easy to break, but they're easy to keep too. They start off as a fine little thread, but they become cords, ropes, and then cables that bind us. I have no desire to be bound by emotional cables that have no footing in reality today. So I hope that added value for you. It's been a valuable little bit of learning for me, and I'm, as I said, making that commitment to really change how I look at how I'm feeling. Have a great day. I look forward to the next time we talk.